Another big story we're tracking this morning for you is about the Constitutional Court, which will confirm whether political parties should disclose their donors. The Western Cape High Court ruled last year that political parties must reveal who funds them. A number of rights groups are calling on all political parties to be transparent. And that Constitutional Court hearing, of course, will be starting today at the Concourt in Johannesburg. Now, we're joined via Skype this morning by Right-2-Know Campaign Spokesperson Murray Hunter. Mr. Hunter, good morning, and thank you very much. You yourselves and a number of other rights organizations have really been at the forefront of transparency. But this process, if the Constitutional Court confirms the ruling of the Western Cape High Court of last September about this issue, is it going to take quite some time to implement?
Well, actually, this process has been unfolding in parallel to a parliamentary process. The court case started first, but Parliament in the last less than a year actually has said that it is moving forward with party funding legislation, recognizing that the absence of transparency has been a huge problem for our democracy. So they've initiated, possibly as a result of the pressure that was brought by the court case. That process is still unfolding. I believe it will be finalized in the National Assembly quite soon. But we believe that this court case will at least give guidance to the political parties that are dealing with this. Obviously, this is a situation where political parties have a particular interest, a very direct interest in the nature of the regulations that they would be producing. So having some guidance from the Constitutional Court and from the High Court on exactly what the rights of citizens is will be very useful.
Yeah, we're going to have general elections in 2019. We're all looking forward to them as citizens. One would hope, I guess, that this matter might be resolved before then. Are you confident, as Right-2-Know, that we might get a change in the legislation, that section of that particular legislation that governs the transparency issue of political party funding?
Well, it's starting to look very likely that these regulations will be in place and enforced before the 2019 elections. And there's an interesting reason why. Because the political parties in Parliament, the committee that is working with this legislation, is not only dealing with the need for transparency in the private funding, but they're looking at increases in public funding for all political parties. So to some extent, this is about, in particular, the governing party, the ANC, evidently responding to a need for more public funds to be able to campaign. So there's a direct interest from political parties to ensure that these regulations are in place. For us as Right-2-Know, and of course as members of the public, what we want to see is assurances that the donations that are made to political parties in the lead up to the 2019 elections and going forward are available to the public. We're not talking about every rand and cents, but we want to know who are the big donors, who are funding these campaigns, and we want to know whether there are kickbacks in return.
Yeah, I understand from our technical team that we've lost your picture, but please stay on the line because we'll talk to you while we've got your audio. Hopefully we don't lose it. And just another question, Mr. Hunter, how important is it? Why does Right-2-Know believe it's important for us to know who's funding, who are the big donors of the political parties that are sitting in the National Assembly?
I think we need to look to history. Under apartheid, for example, this system of political secrecy was just one piece in the entire puzzle of that very anti-democratic regime. And unfortunately, that political secrecy is something that we've carried into the democratic era. This has created a context where major corruption scandals that we've dealt with in the last 20 years have often included a situation where some business, some company, some individual is making donations to a particular party. And in particular, we look at case studies of the ANC, has made donations in order to get favorable treatment for themselves, in order to get tenders, in order to get a seat at the table, to shift policies. And this has created a context not only for corruption, but for political inequality. Because ultimately, what you see is that voters' views at the ballot box do not carry the same weight as a check made to the party's coffers. So we want to see a situation where at least what we have is transparency, so that you know as a voter or as someone who chooses not to vote, who is actually shaping the agenda for political parties and what that agenda is.
Thank you very much, Right-2-Know spokesperson Murray Hunter.